Welcome to your Canadiens Connection on Rocket Sports Radio. We are proud to be the trusted source for all things Habs for more than a decade. This is the Canadiens Connection Podcast. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio, keeping you informed, engaged, and entertained. And we are talking all about the Montreal Canadiens on episode 342. The playoffs are in sight, talking about the Habs' late season surge. But before we get there, let's make some introductions. My name is Amy Johnson. I'm going to be your host for today's show. And I'm pleased to be joined in the studio every week by my co-host, who also happens to be our founder and president here at Rocket Sports. His name is Rick Stevens. How you feeling today? How you doing?
This is happening, right? It's.
I don't know. One week we're here and we're like, oh man, I don't know. And the next week it's like, hey, I think it's that. No, I don't know. And well, maybe. I give up.
They just have to end on, on the upturn.
Whatever swing it's going to be. Yeah.
You got to end there.
Oh.
But right
now,
looks like it
could happen.
Everything's falling into place.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Well, no, absolutely. Like the February break, it looked awfully unlikely.
November and
well,
October. it wasn't even on the map.
A dream.
Yeah.
But now everything is falling into place. Whether they like it or not,
they're ready for it or not. I know
it's happening. It is happening.
Oh well, we're going to talk about it today. We're going to get you caught up on the 3-game turnaround that they just went through this past week, and get you all the record-setting excitement. Yes, I said record-setting. Get you through some roster news, because there's some pretty big pieces of roster updates that took place this week as well. We're going to talk about the details of those. On the Habs prospect report, we're going to check in with some of the prospects playing over in the KHL, as well as take a peek on what's happening in the NCAA Frozen Four championship race. Also peeking on Laval and Trois-Rivières as well. Get you some news from around the general NHL world. All of that in the first segment, before in the second segment we dive into our big topic this week, which is plain and simple. As of time of recording, the playoffs are within reach for the Montreal Canadiens. We're ticking down. We're in single digits, folks, for the amount of games remaining on the regular season calendar for the Habs, and the playoffs are absolutely within reach. We're going to talk about what that means. Look at the wild card update. There's even some wild card competitors currently in game action as we record on Saturday afternoon. We'll keep an eye on that as well. Lots of excitement. Then finally, in the third segment, after we ask you your Canadiens Connection question for this week that we want you to chime in and answer for us, we are going to read some of the best responses we got to last week's Canadiens Connection question of the week. So if you would like to get involved with the show, whether you're answering our question of the week, whether you just want to make a statement, have a question, want to comment on something, be sure to do that. Send us a text on the Rocket Sports text line. That's 585-3-ROCKET. Drop us a comment on YouTube. Where is our YouTube channel? Just head over to InsideTheCanadiens.com. You'll find it there. Or you can also just hit us up in our mentions or DM on social media. That's at Habs Connection on X, on Facebook, or on Instagram. So, okay, last week was not a good week. When we met here on the podcast, the Habs were in the midst of a 5-game losing streak. Things were looking dire once again. And what did we say needed to happen, Rick?
The Canadiens needed to go on one more winning streak, one last winning streak.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Everyone. cricket.
That's all it took.
We'll take credit.
Just ask the hockey gods and they deliver.
And that's exactly what happened. Kicking things off with Saturday night's tilt in Florida. Habs snapped their 5-game losing streak, managed to get 2 power play goals on the way to a 4-2 victory over the Panthers.
The power play goals that you mentioned were key. They were the key to the game, to the Canadiens winning the game against 2 power play goals against a very good, one of the top PK teams. And Paul Maurice said that was the difference. He was right. 2 power play goals for Montreal. Suzuki had a goal and an assist. Hudson with 3 assists. Yeah, I mean, Suzuki and Hudson's name are going to come up throughout the week.
Yes.
Throughout this past week as we do the review.
Then they turned around for an afternoon matinee in Montreal. No, that was 2 days later on Tuesday. The Sunday game was the afternoon. Tuesday, they come back to Montreal, and it really looked like Florida was finally going to get their first win in the season series in that game until Nick Suzuki had something to say about it. Not only getting the tying goal with 9 seconds left, but also banging one in overtime pretty quickly to let Montreal continue. Now put together back-to-back wins against the Panthers, 3-2, sweep the series.
Yeah, this was as unlikely. Florida was in complete control.
Yeah,
the Canadiens they had their 1-goal lead. They were locking it down in the third period. Montreal only were able to muster 4 shots in that third period. The icing at the end and in their own zone and had a tough time getting out. It was pinned in the corner. Slavkovsky to Hudson. Hudson gets it just inside with time running out inside the Panthers' blue line. Seth Jones pokes it. It almost exits the zone, and just a wild Hail Mary toss towards the net. Lane Hudson miraculously kept it in. And it was Reinhardt that went down to kind of cradle the puck and steer it into the corner to end the game. And it took a crazy bounce off of him right to Nick Suzuki, who was parked at the side of the crease.
Yep.
And tied the game with 9 seconds left. It shouldn't have happened. It was so unlikely. It was the hockey gods intervening. The
roof blew off the Bell Center.
Well, absolutely. And the Panthers were obviously stunned, and in a total of 38 seconds, the 9 seconds at the end, and then 29 into the overtime. The Canadiens pulled out a victory that was Suzuki in overtime doing the wrap, and it was insane. It was absolutely insane. It shouldn't have happened. It happened, and it kind of this week set the tone for the Canadiens that they're in control. They're on their way. If all stays as it should, and of course it won't. There'll be some surprise. There'll be something unexpected that'll happen, given the way this dramatic season has unfolded. But, I mean, and even after the game, to lose in such a stunning fashion, Francois Gagnon from RDS, and I like Francois, but he trooped over to the Panthers dressing room to try to leverage a juicy quote out of Paul Maurice, and he should have known better. Paul Maurice is...
He's not going to fall for that.
And he said, "So, Paul Maurice, who are you more mad at, your team or the Canadiens for sweeping?" And Paul Maurice said, "Not mad, not even one little bit." He said, "This was so unlikely. We played the way we were supposed to play. This is not our fault," sort of thing. Yeah. I'm not going to fault anyone. And And see Francois Gagnon kind of sheepishly walked away. Didn't get my quote. But it, for the Canadiens, it was just an absolute jolt. And you saw Nick Suzuki was just absolutely charged after the game, and all he could talk about on the ice in the post-game interview with Marc Denis was, "We're going to the playoffs." Essentially, is what he said over and over.
Well, that, as you said, it set the tone for the Canadiens now for the week. Carried that, of course, 2 nights later into their home game against the Boston Bruins, who now, in all transparency, have been terrible. But an easy win, 4-1 over the Boston Bruins, just kept the upward trajectory going and giving some separation between the Habs and the rest of the flailing wildcard competitors.
So these are 2 storied rivals, bitter rivals going back years and generations. And typically the line that you can say about it doesn't matter where these teams are in the standings. It's always a hard-fought game. And there was some of that. It was close, no scoring in the first period. And there was some rough stuff and after the whistle kind of scrums and
the pushing of Sam Montembeault over the goal line hilarious.
And then it was classic Bruins Habs kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then that was about all the Bruins could put together was a period. And then they just wilted. Canadians outshot the Bruins 17-2 in the second period, and just they cruised from there. It wasn't even close, scoring 2 second period goals. Cole Caulfield, notably with his 35th goal of the season, and that was it. That was it. And you look at the Bruins, and there's not much there. With Charlie McAvoy injured, Swayman still decent, a very good goaltender, having an okay season, I guess. Pasternak looks lost without anybody to play with him, and they've lost 10 straight games. They're in sad shape.
They really are, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what that franchise does moving forward, but it was advantageous for the Canadiens. And so with all of those things put together this week, I mentioned record-breaking at the top of the show. Couple of things. Suzuki finally cracked that 80-point plateau for the first time in his career in that game against the Bruins. And Rick, that was it's significant not just for Suzuki's personal stats, but for another reason as well.
Yeah, this is the first time any Canadian has hit that 80-point plateau since Alex Kovalev in 2007-08 season. And the other part of that is that Suzuki, for his career, has been chasing that point-a-game pace. He's got 81 now. He's gonna achieve that for the first time in his career, and that's something. That milestone is very important to him.
Absolutely. Also, Lane Hudson hitting 57 assists this week. That's 62 points on the year. And all talk about him now being the front runner for the Calder is certainly heating up.
Yeah, that's pretty clear. Franchise record for a rookie, chasing Chelios. Chelios wants to be in the building. It's Lane Hudson has his multiple point, the number of games. He's stunning everyone, and yes, he's got to be the odds-on favorite for the Calder. Canadians also broken the 80-point barrier, and that's the first time since 2018-19. So things are, as we said before, falling into place.
Absolutely. So the Canadiens have won 3 in a row after dropping 5 straight, and we're going to talk about stats and so forth more in the second segment. But currently 81 points through 75 games played, and we'll see how things continue to progress there. In terms of the roster, though, some shakeups this week. Well, before we talk about those, let's just continue the conversation about Lane Hudson for a minute, because he was named the NHL Rookie of the Month for the month of March, and I think he probably earned that.
15 points in 14 games. He was an easy choice there.
Definitely. All right, so in terms of some big roster news, first and foremost, did not have to wait long after Boston College's elimination from the Frozen Four contention for Jacob Fowler to join the Canadiens and turn pro officially. Signed his 3-year entry-level contract, which will begin next season, the 2025-26 season, running through the 2027-28 season. Also at the same time, signed a 1-year, one-way AHL contract for the rest of this season so that he can eventually join Laval when they're back.
We've been talking about him most weeks on this program because he's had yet another sensational season.
Yeah.
Named Hockey East Goaltender of the Year, second straight year. He's a finalist for the Mike Richter, which is best goaltender in the NCAA. His record, sterling, 25-7-2, 940 save percentage, 163 goals against, and 7 shutouts. The only blemish is there's no team mark to go along with any of that. The Beanpot, we talked about that, which they were favored to win, did not win, and you have to say that that Fowler was not at his best in that little tournament. The Hockey East, they lost to Northeastern. Shouldn't have lost to Northeastern.
No.
And then got bounced from the Frozen Four regionals by Denver. So yeah, especially over the 2 years that he was at Boston College, a pretty fabulous roster. The likes of Ryan Leonard and Gabe Perreault and this season James Higgins, and so it's a disappointment certainly in that regard. But I think his focus was always on his pro career. That's now begun. He's signed his pro contract. And he's ready to. He looked pretty good in practice, practicing with the Canadiens this week, and will look to join the Laval Rocket.
They're currently. We'll talk about it in a minute. They're currently on their Western Road swing. They've got 2 more games coming up this weekend against Abbotsford, so they will likely travel home on Monday, probably have Tuesday off, I would assume. So he is slated to join them for practice on Wednesday. He's going to wear number 1 for the Laval Rocket.
I like that. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Caden Primo's been great. Connor Hughes, maybe he steals some starts from him.
Yeah.
Will Dobish go back there for it? It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But I think it's only positive for Jacob Fowler, especially if Laval goes on a long playoff run.
That's for sure. Also, Timra in the Swedish Hockey League was eliminated from their playoffs. We mentioned last week that they were on kind of the brink of facing elimination. Unfortunately, that did happen. But that is a fortunate thing for Habs fans and for Oliver Kapanen, because he then immediately headed to North America, rejoined the Montreal Canadiens this week, skated at the Bell Center, but Rick, he has not yet gotten into the lineup.
Yeah, 12 games at the beginning of the season before he was sent to Timrå. He had a fabulous season. He centered the top line in the SHL. And Marty St. Louis liked him before he left. He liked his contributions. And now this opens up some interesting possibilities for the Canadiens. We know that Joshua Waugh hasn't, he's been pretty invisible. He didn't fit in well with that second line, couldn't keep up. And the third line is a unit that you're not going to touch. There is a spot open on the fourth line that Joshua Waugh could have taken, but he's not that kind of player. So he paints himself into a pretty small box, and he isn't checking any of those boxes at the moment. So will Kapanen go onto the fourth line? You got to think, Michael Pezzetta is there for now. Michael Pezzetta is been fine in his 5 or 6 minutes a game. But he has no points, no assists, no goals in the 20 games that he's played this season. Even his shots on goal are in the single digits.
Penalties.
He's kept those to a minimum lately. So he can't be relied on. But you've got to think that Kapanen could offer something a little bit more. And the other part of the equation is Yoel Armia, who is really hampered by his whatever undisclosed injury, hand, wrist, whatever it is. He hasn't been able to muster much of anything, although he's such a key player. And Marty St. Louis was asked about it this year, and he said Armia is rarely in the wrong place. So likes to keep him out there. But you got to think that a healthy Kapanen could offer something as well. So there are a number of options, and I think that it would be interesting to see, like, if the Canadiens are going to go on, are going to be part of the playoffs. You maybe rest Armia and put Kapanen in. Kapanen's going to get in the lineup somewhere over these next 7 games, and there's going to be things that happen. I think we'll be talking about him probably on our next podcast.
Most likely. For now, however, we are going to talk about the Habs prospects for a little bit.
It's time for the Rocket Report. The Rocket Sports Media Team is your premier source for information about the Laval Rocket, the AHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, as well as Habs prospects playing in the CHL, NCAA, and leagues around the world.
First up this week, we want to put a spotlight on a 20-year-old winger who's playing in the MHL. That's the junior league over in Russia for Moscow Dynamo. And that is Makar Khanin. You might recall that name. He was drafted in the 7th round last summer in the 2024 NHL draft, 210th overall. He's had a pretty decent season this year so far, Rick.
Pretty good regular season. 34 games, 10 goals, 9 assists for 19 points. They moved into his team. Dynamo has moved into the playoffs. They have a first round series that has just been completed, actually, against another Moscow team. And I'm going to give this one to you.
My best attempt at this will be they're playing against Moscow Krylia Sovetov.
They sure are. And well, they were, because they just won the series. It's a best of 3 series, and Dynamo won the series 2-1. The clinching game, Dynamo won 10-4. All right, then. And in that game, Hannon had a goal and 5 assists. So just a 6-point game in the first round clincher for Dynamo. And we thought that was, you score 6 points in a game, you're going to get into our spotlight focus.
That's right. The other KHL name that plays for the big Dynamo club, Ivan Demidov. They are currently leading their series 3-2. Demidov is riding a 4-game point streak right now. They don't play till later this weekend, I don't believe.
Demidov playing for SKA, I think. Against the main Dynamo.
Yes.
Club. Dynamo's up 3-2 in that series, best of 7. I think they play on Sunday. But the only reason that SKA is still in this series is one Demidov. Scored an overtime winner. He has a 4-game point streak in the playoffs. In 5 games, three goals, 2 assists for 5 points. And that's someone his coach had a question about whether he would participate in the playoffs at all. Now, if Dynamo is eliminated in this playoff series, don't expect to see him like Kapanen coming over. Don't expect to see him. He has a contract that goes until the 31st of May. And there was some question about whether he would go to that MHL team to continue, help continue their playoff run. Would be a teammate of Henin that we just talked about. And contribute there. So don't expect to see him in North America until development camp around that time.
That's right. The NCAA Division I Ice Hockey Championship path continues. The 4 regional mini tournaments are finished, and so the winners from those 4 regional weekends are off to the Frozen Four, which will start on April 10th. It's being held at the Enterprise Center in St. Louis this year. So who is going to be in attendance? Well, it'll be Denver, who are the ones who took Jacob Fowler and Boston College out of contention. Western Michigan, who ousted Massachusetts. Penn State is going for the first time in club history to the Frozen Four. It is a big deal for Guy Gaudreau and the Penn State men's hockey team. They beat UConn, that's the University of Connecticut, to get there, and Boston University topping Cornell to advance as well. Rick, does that mean, are there any Habs prospects left who will be participating and competing to win the Frozen Four?
4 started the tournament. We talked about that last week, the 16-team single knockout tournament. There is 1 left, and that is Sam Harris, forward from the University of Denver. Denver beat Boston College 3-1 to get to the final. Denver Pioneers, a solid team and program. Great coach, and Sam Harris. Sam Harris is a fascinating prospect. A little undersized, but he certainly doesn't play that way. He's a very physical player. Goes to the dirty areas. He had a very good season: 35 points in 42 games, 23 goals, 12 assists for Denver, and he wasn't playing on the top line. So those points tie him with Michael Hage. If you're looking at NCAA prospects or Canadiens prospects playing in the NCAA, it's Harris and Hage who take the top 2 spots for prospects. So we'll keep a close eye on him. That tournament starts this coming week in St. Louis.
Absolutely. Should be exciting. It always is. It's a great tournament to watch, even if you're not familiar with the teams who are participating. For Laval, after suffering what was, in my opinion, a bit of an odd loss to the Lehigh Valley Phantoms at home last week, they then traveled started that Western Road swing with 2 games in Manitoba against the Moose on April 1st and 2nd. Coming out on top in both of them, they beat them 3-2 and then 3-1. Still holding on to that first position in the North Division, first position in the AHL overall. They have just 7 games left on the regular season calendar. However, there is someone whom they are without the services of once again.
David Reinbacher. And if you were with us last week, we were recording during the warm-ups for the Laval Saturday afternoon matchup. And David Reinbacher took the warm-ups and looked to be in the lineup. But when the game started and the lineups came out, Reinbacher was nowhere to be seen. It was Hayes that was taking his spot on defense. Not really any explanation other than, and Pascal Vincent, we talked about it last week, kind of takes his orders from the Canadiens and when he'll play, when he won't play. He said he usually gets a text on that. And he just said that Reinbacher is day-to-day. Reinbacher didn't travel that 4-game road trip to Western Canada. He skated by himself at Brossard on Friday. And there's no information on what he's dealing with. If this is, if this is discomfort or inflammation of his knee based on his recovery from surgery. We don't even know what, to be honest, we don't know what kind of surgery he had. The Canadiens are silent about that. So everything is very, very hush-hush. And it's a little disconcerting, to say the least.
The Trois-Rivières Lions still sitting in 3rd place overall in the ECHL. They, surprise, surprise, they were playing Worcester some more this week. They did manage to win both of those games. They dropped a game to Maine, but turned around and beat them again the 2 days later. So Trois-Rivières, the ECHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, also doing just fine.
And they're bound for the playoffs.
Yes.
We talked about that last week, that you're going to see Laval and the Lions both in the playoffs. It wouldn't be fun if all three levels of the organization were in the playoffs.
That would be something. All right. Quickly, before we dive into our big topic this week, want to get you caught up on some big news from the NHL. And this one, I think this one caught some people off guard, thinking that this was not on the table or in the cards, but NHL and Rogers Communication reaching a new 12-year Canadian television rights deal worth about just $7.7 billion in the U.S., which is $11 billion in Canadian dollars.
Yeah, this is huge. And there was some question about whether that would happen given the ratings and so on, and whether it was worth it. But that's all turned around in the last season or two. This deal doubles the last deal in terms of dollar value, and is huge. But in the press conference, there wasn't a lot of detail. The Rogers people, the Sportsnet people said that there is going to be bigger coverage, better coverage. Fewer blackouts. They said more regional games will be turned to national games, so there are fewer blackouts. That's welcome, but there was no detail on that or how that would be worked out or how many games would be different. And of course, for Montreal Canadiens fans, there was questions about who's going to be taking over the French coverage. Who's going to be operating the French coverage, and the Rogers folks said, yeah, there are sub-license deals to work out. This isn't going to take effect for couple years yet. So there are things to work out, like sub-licenses for RDS and TVR, the single game event nights like we've seen the Amazon coverage. So an enormous deal, an enormous announcement, not a lot of detail just yet.
All right. Well, we'll see how all that shakes out. The one thing that I think everyone has their eyes fully on is what's going on with the Washington Capitals, because suddenly, just like that, on Friday night, Alex Ovechkin tied Wayne Gretzky for the most goals in NHL history by scoring twice in that game to even things up at 894. Wayne was in the building, of course. There's a picture circulating of the two of them holding on to the tying puck. And Ovechkin, there was some speculation as to whether or not he would whether he would overtake Gretzky's record on an empty netter that night. And Ovechkin firmly said afterwards he would not want that to happen. He wants to earn it.
Yeah. And why not?
And I agree with that. I think I commend that.
Fascinating to me that Ovechkin scored his 894th goal in his 1,486th game. Gretzky in 7 games less, 894 in 1,479th game. And now, Ovechkin has plenty of time to break the record. Gretzky again, and Bettman, if you like that sort of thing, will be there when Ovechkin breaks. It's going to happen. I thought it was really nice. Gretzky, classy as always, and Ovechkin said he has really appreciated Gretzky's support throughout his career. But certainly, he's been nothing but gracious as Ovechkin pursues the record. But also in the lineup was one Ryan Leonard. We mentioned Ryan Leonard from Boston College. And he got his first NHL goal. So while Ovechkin was celebrating his 894th and being congratulated by Gretzky, Gretzky also went over and congratulated Ryan Leonard for his very first NHL career goal, and I thought that was especially classy.
That is very, very much so. Mr. Gretzky is, while there is, of course, these big exciting things happening, he's got his eyes on everything in hockey, and he knows that big moments happen both towards the end of someone's career and at the very beginning of them as well, and so very appropriate for him to do that. All right, we're going to take a quick break and hear from our good friends and sponsors over at DraftKings. And then when we come back on the other side, we are digging into our big topic this week, where we talk about how the playoffs are within reach for the Montreal Canadiens. Let's take a look at how they got there this week, what they've done, and what is laying ahead of them in those 7 short games between now and the postseason. You're not going to want to miss it, so stick around. You're listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio.
Hey, basketball fans, are you ready to win some real money? Check out Pick 6 from DraftKings. When it comes to basketball payouts, DraftKings Pick 6 dunks on its rivals, including Prize Picks. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat, like points, rebounds, three-pointers, and more. Pick 6 is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6 and cash in your basketball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
And welcome back to the Canadiens Connection podcast. You're listening to Rocket Sports Radio. And once again, in case you're new around here, my name is Amy Johnson. I've been covering the Canadiens and their prospects as a member of the credentialed media since, it's been about 10 years now, since about 2015. And you can find me on Twitter at FlyersRule. I'm also here in the studio with my co-host, who is our president and founder here at Rocket Sports, Rick Stevens. He has also been a credentialed member of the Habs and their affiliates media, covering them for more than a decade as well. And you'll want to be sure to follow him on X at Rocket Sports. That is the account that you want to follow for all of our content, whether it is YouTube videos, whether it is podcasts, whether it is written articles, courtesy of Rick or myself, or most importantly, our friend Chris G, who keeps everyone up to date on things happening with the prospects and so forth. Be sure you're following at Rocket Sports. I want to before we get into this big topic, I do want to do a check-in on the scoreboard. The Devils and Rangers are currently playing. We know that the Rangers are one of the teams that everyone in Habs land is keeping an eye on. And to start the third period, the Devils are currently up 2-0. So we'll see how the next 20 minutes goes for.
It seems like none of the competitors really want.
Everyone gave up like a month ago.
I was just looking at the mask, Jacob Fowler's mask, some of the detail.
Oh, yeah.
And amazing that he got it done so quickly. That's Celebresh Sylvie Marcellet, our friend Sylvie Marcellet,
she does great work.
She does great work. This is an Iron Man themed mask.
Okay.
On the back, and he's had this before, is a Florida license plate, Florida, the Sunshine State with FOWLER on the back. And then on the bottom, in Canadiens colors, it says, "Lights will guide you home." And those are lyrics from Coldplay, from Fix You. And probably a personal kind of, mantra for himself. It's a beautiful mask. Well done, Jacob. Well done, Sylvie. I'm looking forward to seeing it in game, and seeing him and the mask in game action.
Definitely. All right. We know how it's been, Habs fans. If you've been with us week to week to week throughout this season, particularly the last, month or two, you know that this season has been filled with ups and downs. As we said at the top of the show, one week we're, it's all over, there's no hope. Then the next week we're like, hey, they're right back into it. Fortunately, the Canadiens are really kind of starting to peak at the right time. Fingers crossed. As I mentioned earlier, and Rick was right in there. Last week on the show, we talked about how Montreal needed to go on one final winning streak. It needed to happen at the right time after getting completely bogged down in a 5-game skid. And they did just that this week. They've won 3 straight games, including 2 against the defending Stanley Cup champions, which has been 4 defeats against the defending Stanley Cup champions to sweep that series this season. And sure, we can, if there's one thing that we can count on, is to expect the unexpected. I'm sure there's going to be more drama coming up over the course of the next seven games. But overall, the Habs have to be feeling pretty, and I think, Rick, you alluded to this a little bit with Suzuki's on-ice post-game interview with Marc Denis the other night, that the Habs have to be feeling pretty confident and sitting a little comfortably in that second wild card spot, particularly due not only to their own momentum and their own surging confidence and how things are just kind of falling into place for them, but also due to the fact that no one who's chasing them seems to be wanting to put up the effort to actually make it a race.
Yeah, it seems like their competitors can muster. The Rangers are on a 2-game winning streak right now, but as you said, they're struggling against the Devils currently as we're recording. It seems like they're hard pressed to win. Any of these competitors are hard pressed more to win more than a game or two, and things are happening that are unexpected. Like I said, that win against Florida the other night, that the hockey gods intervened there, and they seem to be in control of their own destiny. They are in control of their own destiny, and things are lining up in place. And as unlikely as that seemed, and again, there's going to be more drama because that's the only thing that's been consistent with this team this season has been drama, has been the ups and downs. But at this point, again, as we record, there's only 7 games left. They're in that spot. Someone has to take it from them, and the Canadiens have a bunch of things that are in their favor, comparably to those competitors that are also vying for that last playoff spot.
Mm-hmm. So currently, where they sit, 75 games into the season, they have a record of 36, 30, and 9. That is good for 81 points, 5th place in the Atlantic Division, and 17th overall in the NHL. They're coming off of a 3-game winning streak. They're hoping to continue that on Saturday night against the Flyers. And they are currently sitting all alone with 81 points in that second wild card spot, just 5 points back from the Ottawa Senators. You mentioned that New York has won a couple of games in a row. That's kept them close to the Canadiens. The Rangers are just 2 points back with 79 points. But they are still trailing by 2 goals to the Devils at this moment. Columbus and Detroit tied at 77 points. So they are sitting 4 points back of the Canadiens, and the Islanders, who really seem to fall off a cliff recently, are at 76 points, sitting 5 points back from the Canadiens. So there's still time for things to happen, for apple carts to be upset, but every game that goes by, it starts to feel a little more real.
5 teams within 5 points of each other. There's lots of permutations and combinations that can come out of that. However, the Canadiens would have to go on another skid, I think, for them to be out of it. We've talked about tiebreakers in the past, the regulation wins. The Canadiens, they're not catching the Rangers in regulation wins, so they can't tie the Rangers at the end of the season. They've got to be at least 1 point better in the standings. Goal differential, the Canadiens are not good there, minus 22 right now. The Rangers at plus 3. That's an indication. It doesn't have anything to do with just an indication as we go along. But here are the important things. Strength of schedule. We keep talking about it. The Montreal Canadiens are 31st for their 7 remaining games. 31st meaning they have the second easiest schedule in the National Hockey League. The second easiest schedule
in the last 7 games.
In the last 7 games. Who do they have to face? Carolina, Toronto, and Ottawa. Those are considered their most difficult games. And the games that are against teams that are below them in the standings, games that they should win. Saturday night in Philly, against Philly. Sunday night against Nashville, Chicago, and Detroit. Although Detroit's might be fighting for their lives, so that one's not so, may not be. Although if the Canadiens, if they knock off Nashville, and Philadelphia, that game against Detroit's not going to be as meaningful. The tough games, Carolina, Toronto, and Ottawa. But, the rest of their competitors, Detroit, the toughest schedule in the league. Columbus at 5th, the 5th toughest. The Rangers at the 7th toughest schedule for their 7 games. The Islanders at 14th. So the Canadiens, a huge advantage there. And that's why when they do the calculations on chances of making the playoffs, the Canadiens now are sitting at 54%. The Rangers, the only one close to them at 31%. Columbus, Detroit, and the Islanders all in single digits. Canadiens on pace for an 88-point season currently.
They have 7 games left in the regular season. 4 of them are at home. 3 of them are away. So it's almost split evenly between home and away. But they do still have 2 more back-to-backs to play.
So this weekend,
Saturday
Flyers,
night, Sunday night.
right? And the coming week, it's Friday, Saturday, both away games against Ottawa and Toronto.
Oh, it's getting tense.
Mm-hmm.
It was all, you forgot it. It's been a while since Habs fans have had that end of the season tension to deal with. It's been a little less stressful when they were definitively out of the race. But that edge of your seat, nail biting feeling is certainly crept back in. This week, though, for our Canadiens Connection question of the week, I want to talk about getting your opinions on individual player on the Canadiens. And what we want to know is, which player do you think deserves the most credit for helping to keep the postseason dream alive? I know who I would pick. I don't want to influence answers, so I'm not gonna mention who it'll be.
I'm going to influence.
Okay, fine. You go ahead.
Well, listen, Nick Suzuki had a marvelous week. Nick Suzuki above the 80-point plateau for the first time in his career, and driving that first line. That first line has been outstanding. Caulfield, 35 goal mark, Slavkovsky, but they would not be my pick. Lane Hudson. Hudson has been fabulous. Lane Hudson is driving things. Lane Hudson is a driven player, a determined player. It's hard to quantify how, even though he goes on and these multiple point games, his records, assists, and pursuit of the Calder, all of those things. But his drive and determination are for a rookie are like anything we've ever seen before. But during the Canadiens' losing streak, we saw Nick Suzuki in the first top line playing well. We saw every night when you go to the game score and afterwards, if you want just a snapshot, that game score, the metric that kind of combines everything, and you'd see Lane Hudson, the best Canadian on the ice, Mike Matheson, the worst player on the ice. And the Canadiens were that was during the 5-game losing streak. Suzuki playing well, Lane Hudson playing well. So what's changed? Caden Gooley. Caden Gooley, when that first game, a little tentative when he came back and he had 7th defenseman, all that, or they played 7, not that he was the 7th defenseman.
No, but they played
7.
7D.
And okay, he eases back, but he's been dominant. That combination of Caden Gooley and Lane Hudson, the Canadiens finally have what's looking like a number 1 pairing. They both contribute differently, but they are fabulous each in their own lane. And combined, they have for me made the absolute difference in these past 3 games, the 3-game winning streak. They've really turned the fortunes around for the Canadiens. they're both very complimentary of each other, both on the ice and what they have to say. They like playing together. And I think the two of them together have been the real key. And listen, there are all kinds of other candidates. There's that third line that Marty has shown a lot of faith in with Dvorak and Anderson and Gallagher. Anderson, remember we said there's opportunities for Kapanen to be in the lineup. Will Josh Anderson be out of the lineup in the next few days? He's expecting his first child anytime. So will he miss a game or two? And will that we talked about opportunities for Kapanen. That might be one of them. Anyway, there's all kinds of candidates, I guess you'd say. I'm voting for the combined candidate, the top pairing defense core, because the Canadiens were having trouble in their own zone during that 5-game losing streak, and it's been Gooley and Lane Hudson that have turned that around. They're going to get my vote, and I challenge you to come up with your own pick.
Absolutely. Could be the same, could be different, but we want to know which player you think deserves the most credit for helping to keep the Habs postseason dream alive. Be sure to drop us your answers and explain why into a text to us on our Rocket Sports text line, 5853-ROCKET. Drop a comment on our YouTube channel or hit us up on social media at Habs Connection on X, Facebook, and Instagram. Can't wait to hear what you all think about that. And you had some great things to say about our question of the week last week. So we're going to take our final break here on today's episode of the Canadiens Connection podcast. And when we come back, we are going to read a couple of your responses to last week's Canadiens Connection question of the week, which was, hold on. How can the Canadiens go on can the Canadiens go on one last hot streak to end the season, or is their playoff dream slipping away? We're going to read some of your answers to that coming up right after this, so don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio.
Hey, basketball fans, are you ready to win some real money? Check out Pick 6 from DraftKings. When it comes to basketball payouts, DraftKings Pick 6 dunks on its rivals, including Prize Picks. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat, like points, rebounds, three-pointers, and more. Pick 6 is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6 and cash in your basketball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
And welcome back to episode 342 of Canadiens Connection right here on Rocket Sports Radio. Don't forget, give us a follow at Habs Connection on X, Facebook, or Instagram. Hey, here's something we need you to do. If you haven't done so already, hit subscribe, won't you? We want you to be sure that you don't ever miss an episode, especially if the Habs do make the playoffs. We are going to be having some really exciting episodes coming up. So make sure you hit subscribe, tap the share button. It's super easy to do, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast platform. But it really helps us. It's your way of just saying thanks. Think of it that way. by tapping that share button and sharing this episode with your social media followers. Also, if you're on a platform that allows you to leave a review, we would very much appreciate a 5-star review, or hit like if you're watching on YouTube. Don't forget the Canadiens Connection question of the week that we want to hear from you is, which player deserves the most credit for helping keep the postseason dream alive? You heard Rick detail who he is selecting. Now, who is it that you are selecting? Let us know. We're going to compile all the answers and pick out the best ones next week on the show. Last week, we asked you, can the Canadiens go on one last hot streak to end the season, or is their playoff dream slipping away? We all know the answer to that now, but some of you in the process of the week, when that was still a big question mark, wrote in. And Rick, I know you have a message from Dino on our Substack.
On our Rocket Sports Substack, it's Dino, one of our favorites from the Ottawa-Gatineau area. Hello, my dear friends. I just realized, he said, and he had been talking about what if the Canadiens go to the playoffs, but he just realized that Charlie Lindgren and the Capitals, he says, wouldn't it be something if Charlie Lindgren leads Washington to the Stanley Cup? I would be in heaven, he said. P.S. I wish Ovi well, one of the greatest of all time. And it's possible that happens. Logan Thompson just went out with an injury and is going to be out for a little bit of time. So Charlie Lindgren is the number one for Washington. Washington and the Jets, two best teams in the league, well above the 100-point mark already, 107, 108, 109, in that range. The Caps recalled Hunter Shepard from Hershey. But it's going to be the Charlie Lindgren show.
And we know what a rhythm he can get into.
He can. Yeah. Mr. December, every single year, is maybe going to make it to be Mr. April, May, and June. Yeah, and good luck to him. But wouldn't that be something? Canadiens make the playoffs, and their most likely first round matchup is going to be against the Capitals. Charlie Lindgren against his former team. That'd be a great series.
Oh boy, it would be. Pop your popcorn now for that one, for sure. Over on YouTube, we heard from our dear friend Leonid once again, and he says, this is why KHL doesn't interest me. As Amy rightly said, people sacrificed their careers. In this case, winning is not the goal. This is why I believe that the sooner a hockey player leaves the KHL, the easier it will be for him in North America. Bad habits will not have time to form. This story is not unique. Different winds blow in this league, but I can't smell the hockey. Again, it's not the sport itself that plays the main role. Consider this when thinking about whether another rookie should spend an extra year in the KHL.
And let's just add that Leonid spends a lot of time monitoring the KHL. Mm-hmm. He is from St. Petersburg, Russia, and a great Habs fan and a great contributor to the show, and it's always a pleasure to hear from him.
Absolutely. So thank you both. We enjoyed those comments this week. Don't forget to get in your answer to this week's question of the week. Which player deserves the most credit for helping keep the postseason dream alive for the Montreal Canadiens? And they've got 4 opportunities between now and our next podcast to solidify or more solidify their current position. Saturday night, it'll be Sam Ersson versus Sam Montembeault, as the Flyers are in town in Montreal to face the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal then has the second part of the back-to-back on Sunday night at 7 o'clock on the road visiting Nashville. Then they come back to Montreal Tuesday night for a home matchup against the Detroit Red Wings before having to wait until Friday to travel to Ottawa to take on the Senators. It's going to be an exciting week. We'll see how many points they can come away with. The New Jersey Devils, I should also mention, just went up 3-0 with just 4 minutes left in that game. So it's looking like the Rangers' 2-game win streak might come to an end. So that bodes well for Montreal. We'll see how that shakes out.
And the other semi-relevant game this afternoon, Ottawa is up 2-0 on Florida. Ottawa is basically unreachable for the Canadiens at this point.
Yes, that is true. So enjoy all 4 games this week. They are going to be good ones. And hopefully we'll have some more exciting news to talk about on our next episode, Saturday, April 12th. We want to see you here, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. We thank you once again for listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio.
Click subscribe so you never miss an episode of Canadiens Connection. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Rocket Sports.